Thank you for joining us today at Metal Toad. We're going to be going over using Amazon Bedrock for natural language processing. I'm joined here today. I'm Nathan Wilkerson, VP of Engineering. I'm joined with David Dolan, an engineering team lead with Metal Toad, and Ashutosh Dubey, who is a senior partner solutions architect with AWS. A quick agenda. We'll be going over a little about Metal Toad. I'll hand it over to Ashutosh to go over Bedrock, and then David will cover a case study we've been working on with Genius Vets. Then we have some information for POC funding and some time for questions at the very end. Metal Toad is a full service cloud consultancy. As an AWS advanced consulting partner, we have worked with customers like Daimler, Siemens Gamesa, and Claviet to solve complex data, analytics, and machine learning problems. If you enjoy this webinar, please join us on March 12th. We'll be going over training models with SageMaker. And on April 2nd, tips for TextRack tips and tricks. And without further ado, I'll hand it over so we can learn more about Bedrock.
Thanks, Nathan. Let me try to share my screen. Is my screen visible to all? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks, Nathan, for introducing me. This is me. I'm a senior partner solutions architect focusing on generative AI based out of New Jersey. Excited to be here and talk to you about Amazon Bedrock. Before I talk about Bedrock, which is the focus of today's meeting, I want to show you this slide, which covers three macro layers of GenAI at AWS. And all of them are equally important. We are investing in all of them. Starting from the bottom, which is our infrastructure layer, which helps you to train foundation models and run these models in production, right? This is for people who are building foundation model from ground up, and they need efficient infrastructure to build these models. In the middle layer, it provides access to all the large language models and foundation models which you need, and the tools which you need to build and scale GenAI application. So the key service here is Amazon Bedrock. And that's the focus of today's session, right? I'm going to cover some customization capabilities, ease to work with Amazon Bedrock. I'm going to touch base on that, some security features like guardrails and agents. At the very top of this, you see applications which are built leveraging foundation models. So you can take advantage of GenAI quickly and without any specialized knowledge. Okay, so that's the top layer where we see Amazon Q, and Amazon Q is kind of an umbrella of services wherein we have Q in QuickSight, Q in Connect, Code Whisperer, and Q for business. Okay, so with that background, I want to take you to the next slide. Let's dive deeper into Amazon Bedrock. Amazon Bedrock is the easiest way to build and scale GenAI applications with LLMs and other foundation models. Customers in every industry are already using Bedrock to reinvent their user experience, products, processes, and they're bringing AI into the heart of their business. You'll ask why Bedrock? So the first thing is that with Bedrock, you enjoy the broadest choice of models, many of which are available first and only on Bedrock. On top of that, you can add your own business context quickly, easily, and privately with this with broadest selection of customization options, right? And plus, you get enterprise-grade security and privacy because we have designed this service keeping those security and privacy concern in mind from day one, right? So that's in a nutshell about Bedrock. What I want you to take away from this slide is the ease to work with Bedrock, the availability of foundation models, and the way you can customize it in a secure manner. Okay, I'm going to touch base on these areas in upcoming slides. Okay, sorry, this. Okay, so moving on. In this slide, you can see the models which are available today, and there are more coming. It's still early days, right? Everybody wants to move fast. And right from the AI 21 labs or Anthropic, Cohere, Meta, all these AI companies which make their most popular model available in Bedrock. Then we also have Amazon's own model, which are called first party model, Amazon Titan. These models are of different types because not one model can solve all problems, right? There are text to text models, there are text to embeddings model, and then there are models which can generate image out of text. So there is not going to be one model which can rule them all, right? And certainly not one company which can provide all the models. So you do not want to be limited there. You want to be trying out with different models. And that's why through Bedrock, we provide these models to you over simple API calls, right? So you can experiment very fast and you can build application quickly. Moving on, you can create unique models to you by ability to customize these models by providing your data, right? That is because you want your GenAI application to understand your business, right? So, and your customer, your product, your operation. So you want your GenAI application to be very, focused on your business. And you want to be able to provide your data to improve and customize the model so that they become unique to you. That's important, right? Otherwise, it's just generic model. So to make the foundation model customized to you and unique to you, you have three different ways. Number one is, which is one of the very important technique, is fine tuning. In this, you can point the models to examples of data in S3, Amazon S3, which is our object storage. And these are labeled example. And that way, these labels can provide a strong training, fine tuning to your existing foundation model. And the model learns from your data, which matters to you, right? Then Bedrock makes a copy of this base model and creates a private fine-tuned model so you get tailored responses. Most of the Bedrock models are available to be fine-tuned. I believe, except Anthropic Claude, which was coming soon. The second technique and is called retrieval augmented generation. And I'm sure if any one of you has attended any session on GenAI or have read anything on GenAI, RAG or retrieval augmented generation, you definitely would have heard or listened about, right? This is one of the very popular technique. What RAG allows you to is to customize a model's response when you want the model to consider new knowledge or up-to-date info. Because most of these foundation model are trained on slightly older data, right? So what you do is that during invocation, you provide your right level of context to the model, and then model sees that context and combines them with its own knowledge and provides you more customized response or more specific response, right? So for that, you can use a variety of vector databases in AWS, or you can use a purpose-built document service like Amazon Canva. Okay, that's topic for another session, but that's how you can work with RAG using Amazon Bedrock and other services in AWS. The third way, which is again a unique way and a newer way to customize model in Bedrock, is continued pre-training. We announced this option very recently, reInvent, and this is a technique that uses large volume of unlabeled data, right? It's a unstructured unlabeled data, and like the raw text of internal report, financial plans, research results, and you continuously improve the foundation model knowledge and reasoning in the background, right? According to your specific domain. So that's like continued pre-training option. You have all these three options available today, and depending on your use case and your comfort level, you can choose either of them or combination of them. By the way, if you have any question, feel free to put that in chat. If I'm not able to take during the session, when other speakers are talking, I'll go over the chat and I'll try to respond. So moving to the next part of the presentation, right? Foundation model, large language model, they are great. They are trained on billions and trillions of parameters today. But ultimately, you want foundation models to take action. I mean, they cannot take action on their own, right? You want your application to do end-to-end action on your behalf. You want them to perform action on your behalf, not just provide useful and targeted information, right? So if you want your applications to take action, you need some kind of agent. And for that reason, we have agents for Bedrock, which became generally available recently. With agents, GenAI applications can execute multi-step tasks across company systems and data sources. So they can answer customer questions about product availability, but going one step further, they can also take sales order, right? And building an agent is so easy in Amazon Bedrock. I mean, you just go through the console and it's just few clicks. So very powerful and very useful way to work with GenAI application. So just summarizing here, right? Amazon Bedrock simplifies in terms of choices. You have choices of models. You can customize, and it's well integrated within AWS ecosystem. Another point I want to touch base is around security and privacy. 4 key areas. First, none of the customer data is used to train underlying model, right? So when you tune a model, you get a private version of the model, and which is put in a secure container, and it goes nowhere. You are in full control of that. So that's a very important aspect. Another thing is your data is never exposed to public internet, right? It never leaves the AWS network. And we enforce same AWS access controls, which you have with any of other services, right? And another one is the regulatory standards. So it is GDPR and HIPAA eligible. So it's very important when you're building your production applications. Okay. Another key announcement, which is in preview, is guardrails, which is a new capability that can help you easily safeguard your GenAI application with your responsible AI policies. Okay, that is also available in preview from the console. For example, a bank could configure its online assistant to refrain from providing investment advice. So you can have customized guardrails based on your application need, right? Or maybe a utility could ensure that personally identifiable information can be removed from a customer service call summary. So all those guardrails you can apply to your GenAI application. So again, a very useful information. With that, I want to conclude my session. Any questions I can take next quick 1 or 2 minutes?
No current questions currently. David, can you walk us through our case study on Genius Vets? And if you do come up with a question, please put them in the chat. We'll continue to answer them as they come in.
Yep. Over to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ash. Sweet. Hopefully we're looking at a slide on my screen, right?
Yes, it's working.
Okay. Sweet. Hey, everybody, let's talk about a case study. For the Bedrock topic today, I thought it would be kind of fun to take a look at one of our clients, Genius Vets. So Genius Vets has a pretty cool product and kind of a fun problem to solve. One of their offerings is essentially a help desk service for veterinarian clinics in which they record calls for feedback and review. Essentially, if you ever call like a support number and you're reminded with this call may be monitored or recorded for quality assurance, it's kind of what we're talking about here. This is exactly that kind of service. But okay, it's kind of fairly useless to just send all the calls to the clients for review. Instead, what they would like is to filter out the worst of the worst. So that's kind of the product here, is taking batches of recorded calls and finding calls that the client should probably flag for review. So let's take a look at how Genius Vets has been handling this. Calls come into presumably a proxy number because all calls get recorded to a central call platform. Those calls are then made available and recorded as MP3 audio files. And as it currently stands, those files are left to be reviewed entirely by humans. And this is really the problem. The volume of calls and the format in which calls are in makes it nearly impossible for humans to keep up with the task of this review process. So instead, we've been working with Genius Vets on a pipeline which leverages AWS services to handle the converting of audio calls to a readable transcript, extracting insights, summary, and ultimately making the decision on whether those calls should be flagged for human review. So let's just take a look at kind of the architecture / state machine diagram for this project and can break it down a little bit. As you'd probably first notice, we decided this was a great solution for applying kind of the framework and orchestrating all of this as a step function. So we'll do a quick end-to-end. Basically, we want everything to be kicked off in our system when it detects that there's a new call or recording available for analysis. So we await a webhook from the third-party platform that informs us that a new recording is available to ingest on our system or on our end. This is an API gateway endpoint, and a Lambda function are awaiting a request. Once the Lambda's grabbed our call, it will then get tossed in what we call a drop bucket, and this is an S3 that's set up to be a trigger to our step function. So the actual dropping of the file in the bucket is what kicks off the job. So at the head of this, the first thing that we do immediately is we take this call and we feed it into an AWS transcribe job. Then we kind of do some polling. We wait for completion. And then once it's complete, we can reach into the output bucket that we set up on the transcribe job and grab our transcript. And this is kind of the good part. This is where we load the transcript into Bedrock along with our prompts. What this looks like can differ a little bit based on models and how you're choosing to evoke Bedrock. For this project, we're using Botto 3 in Python, and we're evoking a Claude model. So we're kind of using a transformer in this case to do classification. So we decided to break our prompt out into parts, and then ultimately you can join that all back together as a single prompt for Claude. So you can see that there are specific events that the client would like to detect within the call transcripts. So we're able to list those out and then kind of give it like our expected output types and then simple conditions for like what that would look like to say something happened, right? You can see an example: return true for key emergency clinic if the clinic being called is an emergency clinic. Really simple, but if it kind of provides us a place in which if those flags aren't being set correctly, that we have a place to like tune that. So now with the output from Bedrock, we have structured data with Booleans that we can check and make further decisions on. And that was sort of where we've been able to find a lot of success with this client and have a back and forth discussion around, some of the complex triggers that maybe indicate that a call needs to be reviewed by a human. So the results of our system sort of look like this. We're left with a JSON object that contains a call transcript, summary, review flag, and then all the little event Booleans that informed our review decision on which kind of get handled in our decision tree. I want to do a quick, the initial pass that we kind of took at this was with Comprehend instead of Bedrock. So if you're looking at the original architecture diagram, we were using Bedrock. We were using Comprehend and Comprehend Medical. But ultimately, we found the sentiments and the insights that we wanted. It wasn't able to provide. We also explored supervised training. We had set our client up with ground truth labeling jobs. Ultimately with the goal of training blazing text and a few different models, but found, again, the speed and the engagement time to kind of train the efforts there kind of exceeded our limitations and deadlines. So using Bedrock, we were able to leverage an LLM of our choice kind of in this environment where we could kind of shop for the ideal model. And that was able to help us as Metal Toad find a solution for Genius Vets that they've been very excited by. So with that, I'll hand it back over.
You are muted, Nathan.
Thank you for that. If all of this interests you and you would like to learn more about how this can help benefit your company, Amazon does offer some POC funding. It's essentially 10% of any future workload up to 25,000. And there's some limitations around timing. You have to wait and get approval and everything. But if you're interested, please reach out, and we have some people who are experts at getting that funding approved and estimated out for you. Do we have any questions?
So far, nothing in the Q&A, but feel free if you have a question to go ahead and drop that in. I'll ask a question actually about the Genius Vets case study, and then I'm also really curious about the different models and the use cases. But for the Genius Vets study, what was the most challenging piece, or what were some of like the false starts? Because I know a lot of this is somewhat experimental and kind of depends on the output. What were some of the challenges that you ran into that you had to sort of rethink, David?
Yeah, well, like starting sort of at the beginning with say like training models and stuff. I think the challenge was we realized that the things that indicated whether a call would be flagged for human review or not were not one-dimensional. They ended up being, multi-dimensional, and there was many of them. So getting enough data and enough accurate data to convey to a model during training all those dimensions, like I said, kind of fell outside of our area of limitation. So, but shifting into working with LLMs, I think it kind of sounds silly, but some of it was kind of shopping for the right model. To Ash's point, Bedrock played a huge role in us being able to kind of pull things off the shelf, run the same data against it, and analyze the output. So that Bedrock, that would have been a challenge for sure.
Well, that actually leads right into my next question for Ashutosh. In terms of you mentioned that there were 6 different models presently. I imagine there's probably more that are going to be incorporated in the future. Are there any particular case studies or areas where it's like, hey, use this model for this one? Are you seeing sort of any areas where some of those outperform the others in terms of the LLMs?
Very good question. First of all, there are not 6 models, but there are those 6 or 7 companies. Within them, there are various versions or variations of models. So there are definitely close to 12, 15. So like even when I say Anthropic, within Anthropic, there is Claude instant model, then Claude V1, V2. So there are more models than that. In terms of what use cases, I mean there will be some public case study definitely, but a lot depends on the use case and your data and the way you want to generate the outcomes, right? So it is not like if you have say summarization use case, then this is the model. If you have text generation use case, this is the model. There are models which can do similar things. So the best place to start, I would say, is the homepage in Bedrock. We have like quick description given to every model. So at least that's a good start. But there is a lot which depends on the use case and your input data set and your requirements. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does, and it of course depends. And some of the use cases, are so specific. Like, hey, what model would you use to ask if a veterinary clinic call was successful in scheduling an appointment or not? That's probably not going to be there on the
and it's interesting with the case study too, because going into it, Claude was not the model that I thought we'd find success in. I think it makes sense because it is a conversational model, and we are essentially analyzing conversation and generating summaries too. So on both ends, I'm not surprised after the fact, but it was not the one that I thought was going to win. We're currently using, I believe, Claude V1 Instant, just so you know, Ash.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it depends on number of tokens you're going to work with. So different model have different tokens supported. Like even has less number of token, but it can be faster. Whereas if you're working with thousands of token, I think Claude V2 supports 100K or 200K token V2 and 2.1. And if you go to Bedrock homepage, some of the models specifically call out their specific features. For example, if you're working with multi-language kind of use case, I think Jurassic models are really good. They are called out in their description that they support 7 or 8 languages out of box. So that doesn't mean that another model cannot support multi-language. You've seen them supporting, but it's just that those models are proven to be doing better in supporting those multi-language use cases. So I think the model description is to first place to start with in the Bedrock.
Great. And I know we're close to time, but before we go, Ashutosh, what's the craziest thing you've heard generative AI being applied for? Like just as the funniest use case or the wildest one so far?
It's a very good question. I mean, it's being applied like a variety of area, and you kind of caught me off guard on that. But I'll share a little bit more practical use case, right? It's not funny or crazy, but yesterday, and I don't know if you guys have heard of Party Rock, but Party Rock is an app which is an application publicly available for anyone to build GenAI application with zero knowledge on this, right? So some of my friends build an application in there so that they can create meal prep for their kids going to school, and they can very quickly generate meal preps, and then it helps parents, mothers, and fathers to help their kids to go to school and then be ready for their school preparation. So something not very crazy to on that part, but something very, very useful and very practical applicability, which common people are using for GenAI. So.
Well, hopefully there's no hallucinations in there in terms of adding any bad ingredients. And also,
Exactly.
for the audience, cautionary tale. We know that Air Canada is now on the hook for a chatbot promising a discount. So all sorts of interesting things. You want to be careful what you allow your chatbots to be able to say. So all the more reasons to go through, do a proof of concept. Thank you to everybody who did the presentation. I don't think we have any trailing questions, and I know we're a little bit over time. So thank you very much. Nish, then Ashutosh and David for the presentation.